Before we begin to use the CAE or the Cybersecurity Admin Expert tool to manage the users in the Power operation, we need to make a modification in the configuration.xml file. Please navigate to Schneider Electric Power Operation 2021 Applications App Services bin and locate the file configuration.xml. Here we have to modify the section called Use Legacy Authentication. What we are trying to do is we will change the value from true to false so that we indicate the Power operation to use the CAE tool to manage the users instead of the traditional user-based environment in the Power Operation Studio. So I'll go ahead and change this value from true to false. Click on save and save the file. Now you should be able to use the CAE tool.
Now let us understand the CAE tool in terms of the Power operation context usage. You can launch the CAE tool by clicking on the icon. On the top left corner of the CAE login screen, a project list of the existing projects is available. You can expand the list and choose the project to be opened and then enter the credentials accordingly. The default project name is My Project, and once a project is loaded, it becomes the active project and the users can get started with setting the security configuration. By default, only the security admin and the default sec AUD user accounts can log in into the CAE. The default username is security admin and the default password is capital A 8 times. I have already logged into the CAE and have changed and created my own password. So I will be logging in with the security admin username and my own password. It's always recommended to add another security admin user for security reasons. In case you lose this password, you have another set of passwords to work with. In case you lose your password, the operative actions and impacts are you can reinstall the CAE, which will overwrite all the data, and all the devices will have to be reset to the factory settings in order to be able to communicate with the CAE again. Let me log in. The CAE relies on what we call as the role-based access control. The role-based access control is a method to restrict resource access to authorized users. The key feature of RBAC model is that the access is based on roles, which is essentially a collection of permissions, and all the users receive permissions only through the roles to which they are assigned or through roles they inherit through the role hierarchy. The CAE tool embeds 7 user accounts by default, which is like engineer, installer, operator, RBAC maintenance, security auditor, viewer, and security admin, which we have logged on right now. Please refer to the manual for the default roles and default privileges, rights, or permissions. Let us look into the manual to understand where these are located. There you go. This table, which is in the CAE manual, shows the user accounts and the role assigned by default in CAE. Also, another thing we would have to understand is what we call as the architecture. Now we can create a new project every time you want to push a security configuration, or you can use the default project. I want to create a new project that has like one single security configuration that I want to use for the Power operation. The CAE user interface screen is laid out into 3 main work areas. One is the project area. Then you have the selection pane, and on the right hand side you have the settings. To set up a security configuration, the user can follow the function tab order for a typical configuration, which means you can create a user account, map it into a role. If you have some specific security settings, you can manage them, and you can add up the devices or manage the known devices in the system editor, and then you can discover devices and update device security through the management of system option. Some of the features of the CAE can be, I would say most of the CAE functions can be used without being connected to the actual network, which is user accounts, roles, security settings, and the system editor. But the management of the system function requires the CAE to be connected to the system network. The project manager on the left-hand side allows the security administrator to create and save up to 50 security configurations and to have them available in the same machine. You can search projects, you can modify or delete existing projects. Now let us create a new project by clicking on create a new project icon. I would want to use this project to push the security settings to the Power Operation 2. This is created from the sample project template, which inherits the default set of roles and the security settings and the user accounts. If you want, you can create your own template as well. Now, in order to make this, I'm going to double click so that it's going to make this project as the active project. I would want to add a new user account called Akarsha. So I would navigate to the bottom and click on the add user account. You would have to fill in all the mandatory fields which are indicated with an asterisk sign or a star mark. So I'm just going to fill in all these fields. Fill in the username and a password. Just going to confirm the password. What is one important thing you would have to remember is you would have to map this to a role that already exists or the role that you can create. I would want this user to have the installer. So you can also set up the arrow password. So I can do this. And now you can click on save and move on. So here we are using the installer role, which contains these models. These are basically the devices, and you can also choose the permissions. If I can show you a sample of the permissions that are available for the Power Operation, you are indicating that the user that we are defining or adding can access these pages as part of the Web HMI experience. So I'm just going to let it by default. And now I will navigate to the security settings. That is fine. I'll go to the management of system. I want to discover the Power Operation which is installed on this particular machine. So I'm just going to synchronize. It says it has found the certificate. So we're going to set this and we're going to click on accept. And we want to push the certificate into the whitelist of the CAE. Click on yes. It has also found the Power Operation server, which is fine. So now we are going to push the security configuration to the Power Operation. So you can either have version control for this. I'm going to give it a name called version 3. So it says the device has been updated and the security configuration has been pushed. Now in order to check this username and password if it works, I will log on to the PSO's Web HMI or the Power Operations Web HMI to check this function. There you go. The user account that we have added from the CAE tool, which has been imported into the Power Operation 2021, we can use the same username and password to log on to the web Gemini. Until the next time, thank you.